Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's lesson is astral walking. What is astral walking? For those of you who have ever seen the monk walk performed in Southeast Asia, it is the premier power building exercise that the Theraveda Buddhist Forest Wat tradition employs. It is a slow motion walk performed while astral breathing that bridges energy from the mental and higher realms into the astral and progressively into the physical. It is also a method by which you can shift your consciousness into the astral and remain there for quite some time. Finally, with a great deal of practice, this can be performed when you are going about your day-to-day existence, and no one else will know. So, if you're interested in generating energy to help your healing practice, to help with your martial arts, or simply to create more inspiration in your life, come join 60 Skills on this adventure. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now talk about the requirements to learn astral walking. Well, first you need to know how to pour breathe. The simple fact of the matter is, if you cannot generate astral energy, while there will be a brief refresher on this in this course, it will greatly hamper your efforts to properly learn this material. So if you don't know how to pour breathe already, I would strongly advise checking out my Build the Ball course or Build the Chi Ball course. It doesn't take long to learn how to do, but it will make the rest of the coursework very easy. That said, if you just want to jump right in, feel free. There will be a brief refresher on how to generate astral energy, and you can go from there. I look forward to your joining me on this adventure. Welcome to 60 Skills. What is astral walking, and why should we do it? Well, astral walking is a very old technique of moving meditation. It probably predates the Phoenicians, but that's the earliest known records we have of this technique. It is commonly used by a variety of schools, whether you are talking the Theraveda Buddhist tradition known as the Forest Wat, or the Tibetan tradition of walking recitation of mantras. When properly performed, this is the main power generating system behind all of those things. So the reason why you want to do this is, one, it shifts your sensory awareness from the vital day-to-day realm, where you absolutely need it, just a little bit into the astral. So this not only gives you more information about your environment, but also greatly accelerates the development of things like the clair skills of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, etc. Additionally, it provides you an excellent medium by which to bridge energy from the more subtle realms into the physical. It is a premier body training method, and for some schools, again, such as the Forest Wat tradition, this is their only body training method. It's just that effective. Finally, it also allows you to work with a variety of energies. You see, one of the things that doesn't get discussed very often is that once you learn how to branch or split energies into their vital, astral, mental, akashic, and non-dual light components, it turns out all of the other energies, the elemental energies, even akasha itself, even non-dual light, even the Kabbalistic letters, and especially the planets, they all have their astral manifestation. So if you're looking to train amplitude, or a peak generation of an energy, well, things like the throwing exercises from Tai Chi, the weightlifting exercises, and pranayama are supremely helpful. However, if you want to train endurance at an energy and your ability to hold it for long periods of time, which incidentally also tends to make it rather useful, you need a technology that allows you to hold on to it for a long period of time. Guess what that is? Astral walking. So those are the reasons why you would want to study or work with astral walking. Next, I will get into exactly what this means with each given category and provide a little more exhibition on how to do that. Let us begin. First, we will discuss the grounding effect of astral walking. The body is a curious thing. It largely transmits subtle energy through the mechanism of ligament, tendon, and fascia. In advanced instruction, you learn about things such as the astral body and the mental body and the akashic body and the astral physical and astral mental matrices that hold these things together. What often gets left out of that is the training of that soft tissue in the body also trains its more refined representation in things like the astral physical matrix. So, if you want to get good at moving energy from subtle to physical and back again, you have to have a physical mechanism that trains this from the bottom end. Of course, you also need sensitivity so you know what you're working with, and the ability to project your consciousness into a higher level to work with it from the top down. But the bottom line is, techniques like astral walking, because they involve the physical act of walking, and because it's performed over a long period of time, greatly enhance your ability to work with all of the other energies. Now we're going to get to the time aspect of this grounding process. A chiropractor friend of mine once told me, and this was confirmed by many other bodywork practitioners, that the soft tissue in the body does not begin to reshape itself until it's been in a static position for about 20 minutes. Now, walking isn't static, but walking is something you can do for a very long period of time. And this duration of practice is equally important as the peak effect you get from other exercises. So the bottom line is, just as in conventional exercise, you need to do resistance exercise so you're physically strong, you also need to do some kind of endurance work so you have the energy to pull your body around. Now, where you fall on either end of that spectrum has more to do with what your chosen activities are than anything else. If you're a power lifter, obviously, the strength end is more important. If you're a marathon runner, clearly, the endurance end is more important. You still need both. The same factor comes true when you're talking about energy work. So understand, astral walking, if you use it for nothing else, is a very potent method of grounding energy into the physical, and this in turn is what makes it useful. It is additionally a very potent mechanism for training the pathways in the body that allow you to elevate energy. So if you're interested in the enlightenment path, it is also incredibly useful. Unlike a lot of other technologies, it's not encumbered by much of an egregore or thought form, and it's also not encumbered by much of, say, a martial arts or healing background either. So the use of this technology as a grounding mechanism is quite profound because it doesn't infringe upon your free will or behavior in any way that I am aware of. It is simply how the body was designed to do this. So that describes the grounding effect of astral walking and why it's important. Next, we will get into the issue of different energies you can train and some other factors that are worth considering. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the different energies as they apply to astral walking. As was mentioned briefly earlier on in this coursework, a lot of different energies have an astral component to them, and this is curious. One of the most notable is mental energy, but we'll get to this in a moment. So the issue is anything that you can sense or feel or see or hear or taste or smell has an astral component to it. So even when we're working with mental energy, even when we're working with Akashic energy, even when we're working with non-dual light, even when we're dealing with vital energy or the material world itself, with the material world, this chair exists and I can touch this chair. But the sensation of touching the chair is actually astral. So astral walking has a big impact upon how we interact with our environment. In fact, the act of engaging astral energy pushes your perception just a hair out from the vital or material world into the astral. And so, as was mentioned earlier, this by itself helps train clairvoyance, clairaudience, so on and so forth. In fact, an advanced level technique for generating those subtle senses is to fill a room with astral energy and then perform your clairvoyance exercises. With eyes open, I might add. The additional astral energy gives the things in the room you're trying to see a little more juice or energy, if you will, to reflect off of, and simply makes it easier. But anyway, getting back to our original point here. Different energies. So when you're pore breathing vital energy, you're engaging with the material energy as well through the act of breathing. Oxygen exchanges in your lungs and the blood gets oxygenated. But the sensation of pore breathing is actually astral. Interesting. Well, as it turns out, Akasha and non-dual light also have their astral manifestations, as do all of the planets, and as do all of the Kabbalistic energies, and does basically anything you're going to run into. Now, the degree to which you're pulling on astral energy will depend on how you're interacting with something. So, if you see a spirit entity around you that has kind of a sketchy, kind of whitish outline, that's usually a mental level construct. On the other hand, if you're seeing a mermaid in full Technicolor rainbow type representation, well, that's definitely much more of an astral representation. So it's important to keep in mind that when it comes to working with the astral and the senses, where you're focusing on is more a matter of how much versus either or. And again, this is why exercises like astral walking are so valuable, because it allows you to further engage yourself into that environment. Also, it's important to always keep in mind that when you're dealing with astral energy, the thing that feeds astral energy isn't your body, it's your breath. So, by virtue of doing a walking exercise where you're increasing oxygenation in the body by using more breath and training the energy at the same time, you are greatly enhancing your ability to work with that energy. So again, these are all reasons why astral energy is really, really, really important to work with, and why astral walking is a fantastic way of working with that energy. And if this sounds like a sales pitch, it is. Because if you don't have a very potent body working method, then your ability to transmute energy down into the physical will be very limited. Additionally, your ability to transmute physical energy into those higher levels of existence, if you're interested in the enlightenment path, if you will also take much longer to develop. It's the reason why, if any of you have ever met the truly enlightened before, most people's first comment is how amazingly grounded these people are. These are very real, very physical, very tangible people. They are in no way disconnected from day-to-day life or having their mind floating around in the ethers. That is largely considered a sign of, well, corruption amongst people who have those abilities. So keep in mind, you need a way to train the body to train energy. And training energy can lead you to the doorway of all of these other things. And out of all the techniques available, astral walking is one of the most effective. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the electric and magnetic lines of force as it applies to astral walking. Astral walking by itself doesn't technically require an electric or magnetic body posture. The astral emanations of various energies, such as elemental water or elemental fire, most certainly do. However, this is where we run into another curious factor. I use that term a lot, and there are a variety of curious factors in this coursework, but this is one of the more important ones. Even though astral energy is by far one of the softest energies that can be employed with the body, If some kind of line of force or tension isn't applied to it when you're working with it, the end effect isn't as strong as it could be. So, you can do this technique by itself without applying the electric or magnetic. It works just fine. However, if you would like to further strengthen this effect, look at the coursework on electric and magnetic walking. This in particular will supercharge the rate at which you progress. Additionally, this is something that you are going to want to split up. So if you do 30 minutes of an electrically flavored astral walk, you will want to mix this with 30 minutes of a magnetically flavored astral walk. Keeping in mind you're not doing a hard pull or push on either one of these. It's just an extra little flavor of tissue manipulation that you want. Because again, astral walking is something you are going to be doing for an extended period of time. This is not a more pain, more gain scenario. This is a maintain all of the key details in order to accomplish the technique most efficiently. So understand that while astral energy by itself is neither electric nor magnetic, it does definitely flavor the kind of energy being used and the ability to perform one of those lines of force will have a very big impact on your rate of development. So, as always, when working with the electric and magnetic, I strongly advise working with both. And in the case of power walking, the weights do the work for you. In that instance, when you're on the upswing, it generates an electric line of force on one side of your body, and when you're on the downswing, it generates a magnetic line of force, which is one of the big advantages to working with that system of energetic development. However, as a practical matter, the power walk can only be performed for maybe 45 minutes, maybe a little over an hour for somebody who's really strong and had a lot of work with it. Astral walking, on the other hand, can be performed all day long. And so this increases further your opportunity to train. So that's why you would want to employ the electric or magnetic lines of force as it applies to astral walking. We will now describe some of the different energies at play. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the issue of astral effects as it pertains to astral walking. Okay, so we've clearly discussed how the body is a mechanism for transmutation of energy both up the chain and down the chain of development. Fair enough. We've talked about how astral energy can be applied to virtually any other form of energy out there by simple virtue of the fact that you always wind up with a little bit of it as long as the element of sensation is at play. Also fair enough. Okay, what can you actually do with this? Well, here's the thing. Because astral energy rests so close to the physical and so close to the mental, it is one of the easiest things to move into either one. So if you want to perform healing work like a laying on of hands, or if you want to do martial work where you want to enhance your ability to move fast or hit hard, or athletics where you want to improve your ability to move long distances without tiring, or maybe even sprinting a little faster, or simple ingenuity for encouraging your mental mind to think of things in a new way if you're an inventor or a writer, astral energy is kind of your go-to for that. And the reason for this is simple. You can't really store much in the physical other than body weight. Some of us are better at this than others. And the transmutation of that body weight into energy is very slow. Running a marathon, if you had no carbohydrates in your system, would burn about a pound of body fat. Not very quick or very efficient. The movement of mental energy down into astral involves a tremendous amount of condensation and doesn't happen very quickly. On the other hand, large amounts of energy can be stored on the astral, and then rapidly convert it into whatever you need. This is one of the reasons why magicians in particular spend so much time working with astral energy. It's simply very easy to convert into what you need. So let's talk about athletic endeavors. For those of you familiar with Barden's Kabbalah, the letter I is a heavy rainbow-colored energy that's very strong. This energy is one that most professional athletes exude. Why? Because it's indicative of a large amount of astral energy being around their bodies. See, it turns out your athletic performance, while ultimately physical, can be greatly aided through the astral. Now, because most professional athletes don't have a mechanism to backfill this energy, it's one of the reasons why a lot of them don't tend to live very long. A magician, on the other hand, doesn't have this limitation. So if you've built a lot of energy up into the astral by, say, using astral walking, this provides much more energy in the tank, as we like to say, that can be drawn on for other things. So this again is the reason why you want to be able to generate a lot of energy and then have a vigorous method for grounding it into the physical. Because not only do you have to build the energy up to have something to work with, but you also have to work on that pathway or mechanism for grounding. Astral walking is a great way to do this. And as you're about to see when you learn the exercise proper, it's not going to take you very long to figure out different ways you can practice this. If you're a body worker, or an acupuncturist, or a massage therapist, or an athlete, it's very easy to see how this can be applied. It's a little more difficult for what we would call knowledge worker people. But you know how when you've been working on a project for several hours throughout the day, and about around hour 3 or 4, your brain takes a dump, and then you usually go out and drink an extra large coffee and you kind of power on through? Well, it turns out if you've built up a large reservoir of astral energy about you, well, then you can just convert that astral energy into mental energy and keep on going. So again, while most people use this for more physical pursuits, it doesn't have to work in that direction. And so having a very potent astral energy generation mechanism is valuable. Now, let's talk a little more about these physical pursuits and how that impacts that. Well, ligament and tendon and fascia tissue all have the ability to move and all have the ability to carry force. Now, as you're doing this, because astral energy sits so close to that tissue, it's relatively easy to innervate that tissue using the astral energy. Now, if you're 40 pounds overweight, you're not going to run a marathon this way. But it could easily shave 10 or 15 minutes off your run time if you are. It might get you an extra 3 to 5% in the deadlift or the squat. And this can easily take you from a middle-of-the-road performance to an outstanding performance. And from an outstanding performance to a legendary one. And that's the advantage of utilizing this when applying it to a physical pursuit. Now, as has often been mentioned in coursework in 60 skills, anything manifested strongly enough on the astral will eventually manifest on the physical. Assuming it's physically possible, and of course assuming you've done the prerequisite work. Being able to generate a large amount of astral energy is greatly going to aid your ability to do that. With most people, this is a passive pursuit that can take years. But you're a magician. You're not cheating. You're just leveraging the rules of reality to achieve your goals. And so the more energy you put into the astral, the more energy you have to convert either up or down, up the chain of enlightenment or down the chain of manifestation. The choice is yours. Now, where magicians make a big mistake is they get caught up in the act of generating astral energy and don't ever bother to do anything with it. That is, as we say, equally stupid. But the fact of the matter is, We're simply leveraging the physics side of metaphysics. So the more astral energy you have to work with, and the nearer it is on the astral to either that mental plane if you're a knowledge worker, or that physical plane if you deal with the more tangible, is going to dictate how useful it is to you. So these are all reasons why astral energy is a very potent mechanism for getting things done. And if viewed through that light, you can't usually go wrong. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the role of practice design and the use of astral walking. We've already discussed the various uses for astral walking, how it's engaged in, how you do it, its relationship to the astral breath, and different applications for it. Well and good. Okay, now how should I practice this? All right, some things to think about. As has been mentioned in other parts of this coursework, an hour-long practice with a given energy could ideally be broken up into 4 parts: lying, seated, standing, and movement. Depending upon the nature of the energy, and depending upon what you're working on, you will want to spend more time on one and less time on the other end of that spectrum of physical activity. Clearly, if your main goal is out-of-body projection, lying down or seated practice is where you want to go. On the other hand, if you're interested in enhancing an athletic pursuit or working with energy healing, movement is going to be the better way to go. That said, for a balanced development of a given energy, 15 minutes of each is a good place to start, with the caveat that in the case of the more physical techniques, you really need to do at least 20 minutes before the tissue begins to fundamentally change to support the activity. So for this reason, when working with astral walking, you should aim to do at least 20 minutes. Now again, astral walking can in fact be performed for an extended period of time. So this is something that you can do for literally hours and hours on end. It also has the advantage of putting your perception into a slightly astral state when you do it, which is advantageous for all kinds of dream work or journey work or trials of passage or any of this other kind of thing. The only thing that I would say is that do not manifest the astral versions of Akasha while utilizing this technique if you need to cross a road or if you are operating any kind of motor vehicle. And the reason is very simple. When you work with Akasha, it frequently results in it being very difficult for other people to see you or perceive you. And so if you've been astral walking with the Akashic emanation for a while and try to cross a street, a car that's coming might not see you. So again, apply a little bit of common sense to this. But overall, this should be a mainstay of your practice. Even if you don't have any interest in martial abilities or hands-on healing or any of this kind of thing. Routine practice of astral walking, and I'm talking several hours a week here, 30 or 45 minutes or an hour a day is ideal, is greatly going to enhance your performance of any of your other meditative or esoteric pursuits. It's just that potent a technique. And the beauty of it is you don't need any special equipment, and virtually anyone can do it regardless of age or condition. Also, as modern science has begun to point out, walking is one of the premier forms of exercise. Quite simply put, we're not designed to be caged to a desk several hours a day. We're designed to be moving around doing things several hours a day. And astral walking allows you to combine your physical activity with your meditative practice. It literally turns your day-to-day walk into your meditative walk. It turns your day-to-day walk into your power walk. And it's through that we can all achieve some level of self-mastery. So, as is always the case with the programming in this series, apply a little bit of common sense and a little bit of ingenuity to this technology, and who knows where it will take you. Let us begin.